Namaste, my friend. Welcome to Bhakti Yoga Conference hosted here at Harvard Divinity School. So excited to be with you. My name is Happy Jack. I'm the founder of Happy Jack Yoga University and a Master Divinity student here at Harvard. And we're together for this whole month of March and beginning of April to engage in Bhakti Yoga. The theme of the conference is grace in an age of distraction. Certainly no shortage of distraction these days, and certainly huge opportunity and need for grace. What we have here is over 40 different speakers, monks, scholars, yogis, thought leaders, coming in with different perspectives, different ways to approach this practice, this lifestyle of bhakti. We just finished this morning with an erudite scholar from Finland, and now we're bouncing to a monk who's dedicated his entire life from India. And I think it's really beautiful that we can understand, how can we incorporate Bhakti Yoga into our lives? Over 1,600 of you have registered. Thank you so much for registering. And, a smaller number of us are here in Zoom. But thank you for catching the replays. My friends, I'm going to spotlight our esteemed guest today while I do a little introduction here. Please welcome my dear friend, Acyuta Mohan. He is a monk. He's a leadership coach. He's a social leader who's built several communities comprising of hundreds of people coming from a varied range of backgrounds for the common purpose of uplifting the society socially, culturally, and spiritually. He's a visionary founder behind 15 welfare centers for youth, for women, and for uplifting underprivileged street kids in many different cities around India by providing them free education, food, dignified social inclusion, and skill development for livelihood. He offers courses and workshops on Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata Purana, Ramayana in several of the IITs and IIMs. So these are the premium engineering and management schools of India. To give you a sense, when students in India, when youth in India apply to IIT, if they don't get in, they settle for MIT over here in the US. It's that exclusive. It's like high level. No disrespect. MIT is a great school as well. But these are, there's some really high level schools there. Acyuta Mohan Prabhu, his team maintains vegan cow farms, and they promote spiritual consciousness through festivals, music, and literature. His efforts have led to a number of initiatives in promoting environmental sustainability and protecting natural assets such as rivers and trees. He's a specialized coach in helping people learn eternal principles of relationships and leadership based on Vedic scriptures. He's impacted the lives of over 40,000 youngsters in India through his cultural events and anti-addiction workshops. He and his team feed 3,000 free meals every single day in India. During Mahakumbh, which was just recently, the team there at Prayagraj served out over 5 million full meals within 45 days. Incredible. In almost a previous life, he was a gold medalist, a national mathematics Olympiad in 2001 in India, and he regularly speaks at Stanford for talks on Bhakti Yoga and conscious living. He's currently over in the West Coast in the San Francisco area, although he's originally from India. My friend, it's such an honor to welcome you, Acyuta Mohan Prabhu. I just to say a few personal words. I can count on one hand how many times we have been together in person. So very few, but I feel such a deep connection and such a beautiful friendship. And it's a good reminder that it's not about how often we're together, how much proximity or association we have, but it's the depth of the conversation and the relationship. I remember the first time we met was here in Boston. You came to our beautiful home here in Boston. And, I didn't know who you are, but we sat down, we were having breakfast prasadam, and you were so generous with your time. You spent about 3 hours with me, probably asking really beginner questions, but you're so kind and willing to engage. And, that's the work that you do with the youth. Just recently in January, we crossed paths at the Govardhan Eco Village, and we almost didn't recognize each other. The first time I saw you and I'm like, that looks like Acyuta Mohan Prabhu, but I'm like, no, he lives on the other side of India. There's tons of monks here in orange saffron. It must be someone else. Apparently you saw me and you're like, that looks like Happy Jack, but no, it's January in GEV. There's tons of Westerners here. Can't be. The next day at breakfast, we crossed paths and it was beautiful to reconnect. My friend, it's beautiful to have you here. Our session today is called Why Bhakti Yoga, a guide for spiritual seekers. My friends, if you're ready to get started with Acyuta Mohan Prabhu, throw your arms in the air and loudly chant Haribol. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, Jack Prabhu. And it's a great honor for me being here and seeing so many of the enthusiastic and interested, intelligent young people out there. Especially having you as friend means they're very fortunate, and they must be like very select seekers of absolute truth that they're here. Mhm. And I thank you for taking up this initiative of sharing this wisdom of spiritual joy with so many, engaging so many devotees in speaking and presenting and engaging so many seekers in listening and gathering. So thank you, Jack. And I've always been touched with your genuinity, your sincerity on this path, you know, utter honesty. That's how I remember you actually. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. And really the inspiration for this conversation, this conference is through meeting individuals like yourself and just recognizing, we learn in the Shastra the importance of association and being in communication and conversation with people who have walked the path a little bit longer than we have. And although you're a few years younger than me, you got a lot more decades of experience on this path. And there's so much that we can learn from you. You've got a beautiful framework that you're going to be sharing with us today, but maybe just before we jump into that, can you give us a little bit, just a taste? And I know you're a typical monk in that you're very humble and you don't want to focus on yourself. You want to focus on sharing and teaching. But could you just give us a taste of like, who you are? How did you come to spirituality? How was there a tipping point where you decided like, this is how I'm going to give my life? Just give us a little taste.
Thank you. With your kind permission, may I just begin with a few seconds of prayers?
Please. Yeah.
ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Thank you. It was a prayer of gratitude and seeking blessings from my spiritual teachers and those age-old heroes on this path of spiritual life who have done great welfare to mankind. So, regarding your question, uh, so Jack, I had been fortunate enough to be born in a family of people, of parents who were already practicing this path of spiritual life based on Sanatan Dharma in India. So in my childhood, like today, I'm 40. So it is like I'm talking of my early years first 10 years of my life. And I used to be up, not with an alarm clock, but the ringing of bells in the Arati ceremony performed to the Supreme Lord.
Mhm.
I got the good fortune of getting a lifestyle like that. Like, for instance, just to give some example, my mother, when she would be cooking food in the kitchen, and so as a young little boy, I was always hungry to eat. Kids always like to eat more and more. So I would run to my mother in the kitchen, Mama, can I eat this? And she would say, No, you can eat this, but not immediately. First, you go and offer it to the Supreme Lord on the altar.
Mhm.
She would call the Supreme Lord, addressing him as Gopal. So, okay, she would prepare this plate for me, and I would get this food like blessed, by taking it to the altar and praying to the Supreme Lord, you know, as people do right here in America, like, they request the God to bless the food. So I would also pray that you have given this food to all of us in this beautiful creation, this Mother Nature. And now, with your grace, we wish to accept it, but only after you have accepted and enjoyed it. So please. So it belongs to Lord, but then it is the love which matters, it is the thought which counts. So we're offering it back to him. After doing that, I would run to my mother, Mama, can I eat it now? And she would say, No, first you go and offer it to animals, because they also. So we had a huge home, actually, almost like 40 acres. We had four generations living together. We had a farm, we had an orchard, and we had like rabbits, dogs, cows, and some deer living with us freely, of course. So then I would go and offer them their food plus a part of this food as well. And then I would come back and say, Mama, can I eat it now? She would say, No, now you go and offer it to birds. So my father and his brothers, they had got this bird shelters on the entire terrace at various places. So we would go there, and the birds would be coming, and would like feed them, you know. And then I would return back and say, Mama, can I eat it now? And she would say, No, first you go to the elders, like your grandma who cannot walk so easily. You go to your grandpa, and you go out in the streets. If there are any hungry men, like I'm from India, so sometimes there are hungry men, like beggars or some people living on the street, so homeless people, or anyone for that matter. So, and then she would say, Now you sit down and now you eat with all your delight, to your heart's content. So she would always say that in giving we receive. Like, she would say that we should look for blessings. She would say that we have this bowl of our heart, which should be like hungry for to receive charity of blessings from people's hearts. And how do we do that? By rendering service selflessly. And she would always base it on God, that God likes us to do this. So she would say that this is one family, because everyone is dear to God, so they should be dear to us as well. And because God has given us some resources, we should share and care. So, so I, so I had this good fortune of being in such culture, such family. But I didn't have all my questions answered, although the culture was wonderful. So it was only when I joined my college, my undergrad college, at the age of 17 or 18, that I was exposed to the association of wonderful devotees who had been practicing, along with having very crystal clear, in-depth knowledge of the scriptures. And when I got my questions answered in that association, especially by my spiritual teacher, His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, and my spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami. So I felt deeply attracted to follow this path, and not just follow, but to share this path with everyone. And so since last 21 years, here I am.
Wow. That's so inspiring. I can just see the faces as you're sharing that. And it's a different reality for many of us. It's so inspiring and so beautiful, and probably what many of us now on this spiritual path aspire for ourselves and future generations. But I know for me, speaking honestly, that was not my childhood. I can think back to I was the kid who wanted to get more than my share. I was the oldest, and I would, get more than my brother and sister. And over here on this side of the world at Christmas, Christmas presents in the morning, I would sometimes like claim Christmas presents that were meant for my brother, but I was claiming them for myself. And so now I'm finding myself in this space of like undoing all this, past karma, conditioning, whatever. Obviously, you made some good decisions in a previous life, and some of us have some purifying to do. But thank you so much for sharing, Prabhu. I
I
love.
like to say that it took a lot, it took an army of people to convince me to follow a spiritual life. So I'm like more fallen.
Yeah, well, it's really helpful to hear that. And just, yeah, could you just actually just say, because this is the first time this specific term has come up, you said Sanatan Dharma. And I
Yeah.
know some of you on the call certainly know what it is. And I know there's many on the call that don't know exactly what that is. Could you just give us an idea, what is Sanatan Dharma and what is Bhakti Yoga to you? Just kind of put that into context for us.
Sanatan Dharma, the very term in Sanskrit, dharma means our true nature, our intrinsic nature. Just like sugar is always sweet, you don't have like salty sugar or chili sugar. Sugar means sweet. Water means it's liquid. So the dharma of water is to be liquid. The dharma of sugar is to be sweet. Similarly, the dharma of every living entity, including all of us, is to love and serve. Okay. And Sanatan means eternal, something which doesn't change, whether I move from India to America or now from Bay Area to the East Coast, or whether I move from one profession to the other, whether I move from one university to the other, or even if I move from one lifetime to the next, my nature does not change. Just like water, you put water anywhere. The nature of water is to cleanse. So you put it on table, it will cleanse the table. You put it on the floor, it will cleanse the floor. You put it on your laptop, it will cleanse your data. You know, the nature of water is to do that, right? Similarly, uh, the nature of the jiva, the nature of the living entity, like all of us, is to love and to serve, and is to receive love and service, selfless from someone else. And therefore, the most joyous moments of our life are when we are a kid receiving selfless love of our parents, and when we become a parent and offer selfless love. People, I've seen people getting out of addictions, which they were not able to get out of, even with all logic and education and training. But when they got a child and whom they now, so they felt a purpose to live for. They now have an object of love, and so they were ready to do anything for that. So therefore, selfless love and service is the actual joy we have. In my lifetime of whatever, like last 40 years I've experienced, nobody loves anyone else just because he's a CEO of Google, just because he's like a super rich man, just because he's won the Nobel Prize. And you may get impressed, okay, but you don't fall in love with that person. Whom do we love? We love a person who has a selfless heart. We fall in love with a person who feels compassion for others, who is a well-wisher of everyone, who is humble, who is so honest and genuine in trying to become an asset to others, not a liability to others, not a trouble to others. Such a person, very natural to love. So Sanatana Dharma is the nature, is the path of spiritual life, which brings us closer and closer to our original nature of selfless love and service. And the root of selfless love and service is in loving God. Why? It is said in Sanskrit, Yatha taror mula nishechanaina trapyanti taskanda bhujopashaka. Just like you water the root of a tree. If you water the root of a tree, every part of the tree, all the branches, the twigs, the leaves, the fruits, the flowers, all of them get nourished. Just like we feed the food to our stomach, and all the limbs of our body are nourished. If we try separately to nourish each part, that won't work. So similarly, God is the root. Absolute truth is the root of all existence, from whom everything is springing. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattaha sarvam pravartate. So if you water the root of that tree, nourish that root, because everyone who's connected to him will derive strength and nourishment, and therefore it is a service. It is the best service to everyone. Yeah. So it's almost like a family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means when do I call someone my brother or my sister? When I acknowledge that we both have same parents. So there is that common center. Similarly, when I become God conscious, when I if I want to call myself spiritual, so I must recognize the common center of all the sacred forms of life. All life is sacred. And when we recognize that we all are parts and parcel of that same supreme absolute truth, so then we begin to love everyone. We begin to acknowledge and recognize everyone as our own family members, brothers and sisters. And then these boundaries which we make in the form of nations fighting with each other, in the form of religions, or in the form of professions, or whatever other divides we have of caste or gender or whatever, they all go away. They are all temporary superfluous things which we have created in this world by ourselves. Yet the reality is that we all are bound by that one common platform of God who loves us all. So Sanatan Dharma is a process which brings us to that eternal nature of ours, to selflessly love and serve God, and in doing so, to love and serve everyone else because they are also dear to God. As they say in America, here, love me, love my dog. So we can't love God without being open to love everyone else in this world.
Mhm.
You know. So, so this is not exactly Hinduism. People say Hindu, Muslim, okay, Christianity or Judaism, whatever. So they are all different religious systems or whatever has been propagated. But Sanatan Dharma is the very essence of spiritual life, eternally. It doesn't change just because one is Indian or American. It doesn't change just because one is male or female, rich or poor, able or disabled. It doesn't change for anyone. It is eternal. It is the very nature of our soul, of our own existence. And this process of especially chanting the holy names of God and serving God and other living beings revives our original nature, which is right now covered over. Something like we have a bank account and we have like $1 million in that bank account, but we lost the access has been blocked because of some malpractice. And there's a process of reapplying, right? You fill in some form, you go and show your ID, and then they give you back you the access. So are you a rich man right now? Yes, as well as no. Yes, because those dollars are yours. No, because you do not have the access to it. So the process of application to regain the access, that is spiritual practice. And that
Mm.
is Sanatana Dharma. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful. What a wonderful explanation. And now just to kind of tie that up, how the term bhakti, how would you tie that in with Sanatan Dharma?
Okay, good one. Yeah. So yoga, the term yoga in Sanskrit means addition or reconnect. Just like you do 2 plus 3. Okay, 5. So you add. Okay. So the term yoga refers to adding ourselves or reconnecting ourselves back to the Supreme Lord. Okay. Now, let's say I want to go from here to New York. So I'm in San Francisco. I want to go to New York. There are multiple ways. Okay. I can drive, I can fly, and probably I can go to LA and take a cruise ship to New York. Maybe I can dig a tunnel or maybe I can walk. So there are multiple ways to do it, but the destination is same. Similarly, when I want to reconnect myself back with the Supreme Lord, to the source of all divinity, to the source of all purity, how do I do it? So there are different forms of or different paths of yoga systems: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, okay, Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Sankhya Yoga. And these different yoga systems have been provided by the Supreme Lord out of his compassion that, okay, as per your nature and liking, you go for it.
Mm.
So, Bhakti Yoga is the path which, as described by Krishna himself, Lord Krishna, who has given all these yoga systems in the Bhagavad Gita originally, he himself describes Bhakti Yoga as the topmost, as the easiest, and the most natural, because anyone can follow it very easily. So, Bhakti Yoga includes the the main essential elements of all the other yoga systems. Not that they are not effective. They are effective by themselves. But Bhakti Yoga is something like I like to call it like an elevator. Instead of taking a lift, you can just take an elevator. It's relishable. It's easy. And at the same time, it gives you the essence of all the other yoga paths. So what is Bhakti? Yoga is clear now, reconnecting back with the Supreme Lord. What is Bhakti? When you try to reconnect back with the Supreme Lord with the process of loving service. So that is Bhakti. Loving service. Karma means service. Okay. Jnana means knowledge or detach and as well as detachment. Ashtanga means by a series of practices, in sorry for that.
Mhm.
A minute. There is some alarm in the nearby apartment.
Oh, we don't hear the alarm. It's not coming
Oh,
through.
yeah, then it's fine. Then it's
Yeah.
fine. I think Zoom is canceling it as the noise.
Okay.
So, bhakti, this term means when you are trying to reconnect back with the Supreme Lord through loving service. Okay.
Mhm.
Karma means when you're trying to reconnect back with the Supreme Lord through some activities which you like to do. And jnana means when you're trying to reconnect back with the Supreme Lord through knowledge and detachment.
Mhm.
So bhakti is a path of offering love and service to Lord, to God and to all living entities. And in that way, to receive the blessings and sanction from the Supreme Lord to be reconnected to Him, to revive that loving relationship.
Mm. Beautiful. Now, I think everybody can get a sense of why it's easy to sit down and have 3 hour breakfast with Acyuta Mohan Prabhu, because there's so much to be learned. But we'll shift our topic because you do so much important work with the youth. Tens of thousands of youth have come through, through your team and communities that you've been empowering. And you've got a nice framework that you're going to share. So would you want to get into that, into your framework, and then we can go from there?
Sure, sure. So when Jack asked me to do this, so I had not gathered any thoughts on this particular subject matter. Like, what is in it for youths specifically? And when I thought about it, like few hours back, that how should I structure this? So it became so crystal clear to me within just few moments itself, because I thought what has been my experience, and interestingly, what has been also the trends, what has been the trend on the social media, it matches actually. The experience which we have of what the youths can gain through this process of spiritual life and what they're looking for is actually matching. So let me share with you in next few minutes. I've tried to structure them under 5 categories. So youths can gain in this 5 ways, specific ways, if they accept the path of spiritual life propagated by Sanatana Dharma. Okay. So allow me to share.
And can I just share, because we talked a little bit before we went live. I mean, obviously, the majority of people here live with us and watching a recording are not youths themselves anymore,
Yeah.
but many of them have youths. They have children, and obviously, we have kids in our lives that we love and care about. Just, I guess, asking right up front, I'm assuming many of these principles will apply to us as well, even if we made it into our 40s. It still applies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a youthful mind is more important element of being youth. Yes, of course. It also matters that someone who's like a teenager or a young boy or a girl, it all the more applies to him or her. But I think we all play our roles in the society today. Like for our kids who must be who may be youths, or for other youths in the society. And principally, yes, it benefits all of us. So I think we can just wait for like next 20 to 25 minutes and taste it for ourselves. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, can I share a presentation?
Yeah, see, it should share it. Will it let you? Yeah, there we go.
So why Bhakti Yoga? A guide for young seekers. You know. So the first uh, point out of the 5 things which I wish to share is living a life of purpose. So I recently got to know that the top 3 trending searches of youths on social media and internet are purpose, love, and wellness. They are categorized among these three. So, living a life of purpose. What do I mean here? See, most of the people in this world are struggling to make ends meet. They're just their endeavors are limited to somehow or other, maybe get a house, get a shelter, get some food on their plate, okay, and get a job and raise a couple of kids. But actually, life can be much more beyond that. If I think deeply, then as the famous scripture Mahabharata says, are these activities of just trying to survive and exist in this world not just equivalent to what animals are doing? Even animals are just doing these things. Ahara nidra bhayamathunam cha samanya metat pashubhi samana. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, okay, raising a family, having friends, having fun. Even animals do this. How how do how do we humans become special or go one step ahead than animals? Not to put the animals down or something, but then we have been given that extra edge, you know being humans. Like we can manipulate so much of this matter on this planet and do so many things, and we have a lot of time and resources at our disposal. So what makes us special? So actually, what makes us special is that we can have a purpose of life beyond these things. These things are definitely needed, to live a happy life. Yet there is something which we can do beyond this, beyond simply surviving in this world. What is that? Let me give you an example. There was this person. I'm sorry, I'm not able to recollect his name. So he was in a prison. I believe he was in the New York State prison. So I think it is the story from 90s, if I'm not wrong. So this person, he was a young man, and during his university days, he got into some bad association, so bad that he got deep into drugs, and he started even looking for money by looting people, or by doing uh, like criminal activities just to fund his hunger for drugs. So eventually, he was caught by police, and he also got several diseases because of those drugs. So as he was doing his time in the prison, he was those cravings for drugs were driving him crazy. And one day in the prison library, he came across this book called Bhagavad Gita. Started reading that book, and as he went through those pages, so many questions of life were answered. you know like, who am I? Who is the supreme lord? Why is the world at times unfair? So many questions, and that deep hankering for satisfaction in his heart, in his life, because ultimately everyone is looking for satisfaction, that started getting addressed, and he started becoming joyful. His cravings for drugs started reducing because he was already feeling high, a different kind of high, which was stable. He no longer needed drugs for doing that, and his life became so blissful that others started noticing it, and he started sharing that joy, that knowledge with others, and others, some of them were also very positively affected. And eventually what happened? This person came out of the prison, and then he decided that I want to share this joy with many others who are also in prison. And actually, more or less, many people are in the prison in their own heart, self-created prison of selfishness, of so many addictions, may not be of drugs, but of something else. So this person got a purpose for his life. Not previously, his purpose was drugs, and now his purpose was like helping others. So his story is like that of going from rags to riches, in the sense of from being a prisoner in the prison to being a deliverer of the prisoners. So
Beautiful.
many such examples have been there in 1960s and 70s. Srila Prabhupada, our original founder Acharya, our original teacher of this Bhakti Yoga, he came to the West. In fact, he first landed in Boston when he came to US, and eventually he founded International Society for Krishna Consciousness in New York, and then in San Francisco, and then LA and many other places. Uh, so uh, when he came there, the counterculture of hippies was like at its peak. And in those days, even after spending millions and billions of dollars, the government was not able to transform these hippies. Their parents were not able to transform. The society, with all its might, was not able to transform. And the counterculture was growing and growing. And these were young people, some of them coming from affluent backgrounds. But they didn't have those answers to the questions of life, because they were looking for some real satisfaction. And they were into drugs, they were into all kinds of affairs, they were into like so many, some of them lived nude on the streets. They were doing pots, and they were like, so Prabhupada brought to them a purpose of life. Prabhupada brought to them that let's help the world by sharing love and peace, which is rooting from the Supreme Lord himself, from the absolute truth, from Lord Shri Krishna. And he specifically engaged them in chanting this Maha Mantra: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. And the rest is history. Today, the same society all over the world has like more than 3,000 centers, 700 or so major centers, and others smaller centers. And millions of people have been able to give up so many of self-destructive habits and have become blissful ambassadors of peace and joy. That's the purpose of their life. So many of them are into saving environment. This Jack was just now talking about Govardhan Eco Village, which is a world-renowned place, 108 acres, and it's like one of the best places for environmental sustainability all over the world. So any good activity you see on the planet, and a lot of it is being contributed by people who were inspired eventually by Srila Prabhupada's followers. So so he gave people a purpose of life, just like I got the purpose of my life. I was working with Oracle Corporation like 18 years back after my college, and I just worked for like a couple of years. And I realized that if I don't work for Oracle or Microsoft or Google, somebody else will work. Okay. Because people want money, and I'm just an employee number after all. But if I don't choose to be a monk with this purpose of selflessly helping others, it's not like somebody else will take that seat. So actually, this purpose is so sacred, so divine, and so meaningful, and so deeply satisfying to heart. So this is a purpose beyond our own basic survival or existence in this world. So this is one wonderful gift which youths can get, especially when they are young, because they have the rest of their life, to help the world.
Mm.
And not that everyone has to be a monk to do that. Anyone can do it in his or her own capacity. Yeah. So that's the first gift. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'll just say, I mean, I love everything you're sharing, and just being mindful. We got four more, and we want to save some time for Q&A. Just keeping that in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Yep.
Sure. I was expecting that from you. I would be surprised. I would have been surprised if you wouldn't have. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, second one, which youths have been looking for in today's times, is love. See, love is the greatest power in this world. They're looking for satisfactory relationships. Why do I say this? See, let me share an instance with you. Couple of them, in fact. There was this girl um, who, like, her mother was like addicted to smoking. Okay, and this girl would not like all around in the apartment there would always be this smell of this smoke and this cigarette. And one day this girl, she got sick, and she was hospitalized, and she was in fact unconscious for quite a while. And as she regained consciousness, his mother rushed in to embrace her little kid and just be there with her. And this kid, she just looked at her mother and she said, "Mother, you've been always smoking. I don't like it." Because even there, this lady was holding the packet of cigarette. So this lady, she was like disgusted with herself. Actually, this is not a very great uh, habit, and my kid also doesn't like, you know and it's not good for my health either. It's not even good for my pocket. So then this daughter, she just turned her head away. and she started looking out of the window. And this lady said, you really don't like my smoking at all? She said, no. And she said, if you really want to make me happy, please give it up. Today on my bedside, please make me a promise that you'll give it up. And this lady shared later on that how much I was attached to doing that, and it was like my go-to habit. But but the love for my child was more than that. And so I decided to trade in. And
Mm.
I chose to love my child. So you see, love has the greatest power in this world. When it is genuine, when it is selfless, when it is for the pleasure of the beloved. Another example, my own spiritual master, he's known as Radhanath Swami. He was born in 1950 on December 7th, which they say is a black day. But he was born, his name was Richard, and he was born to this couple in Chicago. And while he was still very young, I don't know the exact age, but he shares that his mother and father had decided to separate and take divorce. So at that time, he just happened to hear one of their conversations as he returned from his school. And he was a little boy, maybe third grade or fifth grade boy, and he was into tears because he loved them both. And they both were discussing like who Richard will be with after the separation. And Richard was like, I want to be with both of you. Why one amongst you? And then he was crying so much. And that night he pleaded to both of them with all the love he could muster that please, please, can you be together? I don't want you to separate. And because both of them loved him, that was a common point of love. So they actually talked again back with each other, and both of them said like, I am willing to change for you. I'm willing to change for you. Tell me what can I do for you? How can I change? And the rest of their lives, in fact, the next 40 to 50 years, 5 decades they spent together. And that lady just departed like a couple of years back. You know, the husband is still alive. He's in his 90s. And they had such a satisfying entire life, not only serving each other, but serving many others on this planet. So, so this love is something which is the most vital element for all of us, you know, in all of our lives, actually. Even the studies show that there has been, you can Google it, there has been there's a TEDx presentation on this, like 75 years of research across 3 generations done by some 3 or 4 Ivy League universities together, and they were looking for one factor, which is like the factor for people to be satisfied. Okay, is it food? Is it this, that? And they studied data from people from many walks of life, many different countries, continents, and 3 generations, 75 years. And the only factor which came up was loving relationships. And if this is there in people's lives, other things are still manageable. And if this is missing, then even if you are the richest person, even if you are the most beautiful person, even if you are whatever, you don't feel satisfaction. So therefore, Sanatan Dharma or Bhakti Yoga, to be precise, Bhakti Yoga inspires that love of God in our heart. And as we already discussed in the beginning, if love of God is there, it's very easy to love others because then you see everyone as like one spiritual family. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the second thing,
Beautiful. 5 minutes for the next three. You're everything is so nourishing what you're sharing, but we do want to save a few minutes for questions.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I'll manage, at least in 6 minutes. The third thing is mental wellness. I would even add physical wellness to it. So see a lifestyle in sync with environmental goodness is something which is natural to any practitioner of Bhakti Yoga. So I don't want to boast around here, but I'm just sharing a data just to make a point. Last I took a medicine, a pill or a syringe or whatever, was age 7, 33 years back, when I was bitten by a dog, multiple times. So just this natural lifestyle, very much in sync with God, keeps us uh, keeps us keeps us so pure, keeps us so well physically as well as mentally. I've seen this one thing. If we can be a well-wisher of people, Okay, there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which says, if we can be a well-wisher of our seniors, our equals, as well as our juniors, our youngsters, then there is no misery which can ever affect us. It's a reality actually. So mental wellness is all about, are we a true well-wisher of everyone, not just God, but of animals, but of the mother nature, and especially of all the people around us.
Mhm.
Try this, and our life becomes our heart blooms like a lotus in the garden of this world. And how to do this, how to have inspiration to do this? Again, because everything actually belongs to the Lord. And it's a temporary time which we have in this life. So in this temporary period of time which we have at our disposal, if we use it for serving everyone, then we'll be so happy. Like I'll give you this small example. When COVID was there, so I requested this very rich man. Okay, he was like a multi-millionaire there in Varanasi, in India, and I requested him, please help with our orphanage, please help with our animal shed, and somehow he was not willing to help. He gave like peanuts. So, uh, and after just a year or so, he died because COVID, it took his life. And I was just thinking, if only he could have offered even 10% of what he had, probably he would have gone back to the Supreme Lord. He would have been so dear to the Lord because of the blessings he would have received. So, anyway, with time, everything he had went away, got separated. So, for a temporary period of time, we have some abilities, we have some money, we have some energy. Why not to use it for purpose which will give us blessings and assets to take beyond our life, beyond death? So like that. So mental wellness is all about being a well-wisher of all of us around us. Fourth, positive engagements. Just like you see here, this young girls, they are doing this beautiful dance in a spiritual ceremony in the city of Kolkata in India, Eastern India. So you see this saying, empty mind is devil's workshop. So many times youths, especially those who are unemployed or those who don't have the duties and jobs or a business to cater to. So what happens is they come up with this destructive or even terroristic thoughts, terrorizing thoughts like, many people become terrorists or many because their brains are brainwashed, or some turn to even drugs and other addictions. So because their mind is empty, they don't have engagements, or they are like where because youths have energy, youths have talents, youths have abilities, they have like dreams, they want to do something. And if we do not give them, do not offer them a positive direction to dovetail all those propensities, they'll end up having the negative ones. Just a small example, Titanic. It was a ship of like billions of dollars, right? But this $10 billion ship, Titanic, assuming 10 billion, just for the namesake, a $10 billion ship, Titanic, just needed a $1 compass, to be saved. So that compass may be just $1. Like Bhagavad Gita or any of those scriptural books like Bhakti Yoga is very easily available, very inexpensive, but it can change the course, the direction of our life, and thus change the experience which we have with it.
Mhm.
And yeah, the last one, safeguarding the culture and ethos of our society, and thus safeguarding the future of our society. Because youths are the future. The status of youths today will be the status of our society tomorrow. So, I like to call this like, okay, let me show it. Like if you see here, this is one finger, okay? If I if I'm putting this one finger, like striking it on the table here, so uh, like it hurts, right? Because there's not much strength in this one finger. Any of those fingers, like if I take individually, okay? But if I take it together,
Mhm.
oh my God, now I can, you know, crash this table. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thousands of times more power, isn't it?
Mm.
So when we unite with each other, as scriptures love to call it Sankirtan, as Lord Chaitanya. the the latest incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna on the planets, he would call it Sankirtan, which means with our hearts united, or even when we do musical performance together, right? Because when we are in unison or coordination with each other, beautiful things come out. When you do your cooking and you mix all the spices and ingredients together like a team, oh my God, the result is so wonderful, so delicious. So when we come together, as one world, one family, united with the spirit of absolute truth, united with the love of all the living entities, wishing well for this entire world, what power. It's like, you know so much increment, like thousands of times, millions of times more powerful we can be, which otherwise individually we don't have that much power. So when youths are given these ethos, these kind of values, to celebrate individuality, to celebrate variety, just like rainbow, the more the colors, merrier it is. The more the merrier, right?
Mhm.
So so these are some things I would have loved to share some more examples, but I think essentially we're through. So thank you, Jack, for allowing me to share this five uh, experiences or realizations. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, beautiful, beautiful. I really appreciate the framework. It's helpful to put it into to be able to remember it and to know that the top three were like the top three Googled questions by youth today on social media. So we'll open up to Q&A if anyone wants to raise your virtual hand or get our attention in the chat. Um, I'm happy to start, but please do raise your hand if you have a question. I mean, so you speak a lot to youth. You're speaking to the youngsters out there. That's not, the majority of us on the call are not youth ourselves. But what would you like? So you've now, in a way, convinced us or convinced me. It's like, okay, I get it. I get the importance of it. I see the potential. um, what is the next step? Because of course, some people on this call are already devotees and they're very much practicing sincerely. Many of us are new, right?
Yeah.
We're doing some yoga on a mat. We're engaging Bhagavad Gita and getting this great philosophy. And we're not living in India. Maybe we don't have a temple or a community immediately next door. What would kind of just that first step to get started in understanding Sanatana Dharma, in practicing Bhakti Yoga, in a way that many of us might be coming from a Christian upbringing, and so a way that doesn't conflict with any of our existing beliefs. Like, what would a beautiful first step be?
Thank you. As many of the scriptures say, Macchitta Madagat Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanti Cha. This is a Sanskrit text from the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, another one, Parasparanu Kathanam Pavanam Bhagavadyasha Mitho Rathir Mitastushya Nivrata Mitha Atmana. This is a text from 11th canto of Bhagavad Puran. So all of them actually say this one message out loud. They say that if you take the association of devotees, if you just like you charge your cell phone every morning or every couple of days, similarly regularly, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe every day, maybe once in a fortnight. But if we come together with other practitioners and seekers of bhakti yoga, then that bhakti multiplies. You know,
Mm.
like in India, in Hindi, they call 1 plus 1 is not 2, but 11. If you put it that way. So, and then 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 111. You know, the it's not arithmetic progression, but actually, you know, uh, that
Exponential.
multiplication, exponential.
Mhm.
So, so when we come together with others, genuine seekers, we can inspire each other, more. So that is one thing, association. Okay, A. Second thing, B, books. Okay, so we can read books like Bhagavad or books based on the Gita. Okay, there are many of them, especially those written for a Western audience. Many of them like that. The Journey Home. Okay, the Ramayana series, the Shubha Vilas. Or probably Jack can prescribe many more. So A is association of other practitioners. B is books based on the Gita. Okay. Third, C, chanting. So this, we may be Christians, we may be Muslims, we may be in our homes, we may be in a bhakti community. It doesn't matter. You know, even we may be on a war in the war field. Arjuna was the original recipient of the Gita, was on the battlefield. If he didn't have that excuse, how can we have? So C means chanting. The simple Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. For a fixed number of minutes every day, you know, preferably in the morning if possible. So C is chanting. D is diet. You have any pure vegetarian food, you offer it to the Supreme Lord, you know, as I shared about my childhood, and just offer a simple prayer that, my dear Krishna, my dear Supreme Lord, please accept and bless this food, which is product of your own creation. And E, so A, B, C, D, E. A is association of other bhakti yogis. B is books. C is chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. D is diet of food offered to God. And E is engagement, some engagement. Okay. Some engagement in service to God and others. So one example is you can connect others to such forums. Another example of service, maybe you may have some animals around you whom you can serve. Another example is you can distribute books like Bhagavad Gita and, you know, to others. Another example of service could be you can contribute financially to some very good initiatives, you know, of service. So in that way, you can render service. You can render service to the kids by teaching them the song of God, Hare Krishna. You know, you can yourself do kirtans. Okay. So in many ways like that, you can serve utilizing your abilities and talents. One special thing I'd like to conclude with, if you are a parent or if you are a teacher or if you are a leader of any club or any society or anywhere, any way you have a leadership role, then you have a great responsibility. How? There was this little boy, Dhruva. I can just show it. It'll just take a minute. Yeah. So this is a case study. See, this was, if you see on the left of your screen, there is this little boy Dhruva, and you see on in the same picture there is another boy who is in the lap of this other lady. So this person, this king, he had two queens, and he had like two little sons, one each from each of the queens, and he was somehow favoring one particular queen more. And so this other boy, Dhruva, born of the other mother, uh, was uh, was was feeling very bad actually because he wanted the love of affection of his father. So second, in the middle picture you see. So one day the father chooses the other favorite wife and her son over Dhruva and tells him that I'll not take you in my lap. And this stepmother also mistreats Dhruva actually. Mhm. She says that you did not take birth from me. That's why you're not qualified to receive the affection of your father. So this Dhruva, he becomes so upset. He goes to his own mother, and his mother tells him, actually, my son, I'm helpless because your father is not willing to give you that affection. But I can tell you one thing: do not become malicious to them in your heart. Rather, you go and approach Vishnu or the Supreme Lord Krishna, because that God can give you love of millions of mothers and fathers. You know, so this Suniti taught him two very important things. His mother, she taught him not to be malicious of other living entities because they are doing what they want to do. You know, and they would have done same similarly even if some other person was there instead of you. So there's no point being envious of them or being their ill wisher. Rather, you connect with God. Take this as opportunity. This is like a reversal in your life. This is like a calamity in your life. Take this as an opportunity, as a launch pad for success. You know, as they say, na, turning a failure into a success. Hmm? Make the failure a stepping stone for success. Go and approach the Supreme Lord because you've got so much intensity in your heart. So he goes to forest. See in the last picture, he goes to the forest. And there, by the blessings of his spiritual guide and mentor, Sri Narada Muni, he eventually attains Vishnu. In this left pic, you see he attains the audience of the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord blesses him. In the right side, you see him blessing with his conch. And as the Supreme Lord blesses him, his heart becomes filled with so many good qualities and love for everyone, including his stepmother, father, and his step brother. And he comes back home after a year, all good, like summum bonum, you know. And this person went on to become one of the greatest kings of the planet in the days of yore. And he made everyone happy and satisfied. So actually, one who is in touch with the Supreme Lord can serve so many others. Mhm. So if you are a parent, if you are a leader, you be like that Suniti, that mother of Dhruva, and connect people to God some way or other through service, through culture, through music, through food, or through yoga or whatever. Just like Happy Jack is doing and making everyone happy. Thank you.
Prabhu, thank you so much. This is what you're doing. This is what you've done for us today. It's such a gift. You know, we've seen chat messages in the chat. Such a privilege to spend this time with you. And thank you for sharing your love in this framework. And it's just a great reminder. You know, I love the ABCDE. Without going through all of it, but it's the first one you said, association. We meet outside of the conference, we meet every Sunday for satsang, and selfishly, it's for myself, to be in the association with people who are on a similar path. But thank you for sharing with us, Prabhu. If anybody here finds himself in India, near the holy city of Varanasi, Acyuta Mohan Prabhu would no doubt love to host you in their holy community there. But thank you for being with us. Underneath the description, I'll share a link to Acyuta Mohan's Instagram. Honestly, he's not very active. He's out there helping people. He's not posting on social.
I don't know whether I'm on Instagram. I never saw Instagram. So
You are you are on Instagram. I tagged
someone
you.
put it out for me. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's only good stuff at least. How can we stay in touch with you? Is there a way? Is there a website? Or do we just find you on YouTube?
Actually, yesterday the same question was asked to me by some people at Stanford, and I now realize that I must get something started on Instagram or something. So give me a few days, and right now it's just email. Yeah.
Well, we've received the love from you today, my friend. Thank you so much for being here, and everybody who is here live with us. Wishing you an amazing day. Tomorrow we've got Bali Rico, the percussionist from the Mayapuris, who's going to share about kirtan. But right now, my heart is nourished. Really appreciate your time, Acyuta Mohan Prabhu. We're sending all our love and high vibes. Make it an amazing day. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
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 Hare
Namaste.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yo.
Hare Krishna.
So much.
Very good.